Yo, what is up? We have learned how the regular slider works, we've learned how to style it, and today we're going to learn how to slide a range slider. It works kind of the same way, but there are a few changes that you should know, and we're going to go over it. Here you can see it's working. It's basically just a range slider, just like you would use for example, a filter. So if you want to learn how to make this, just feel free to sit back and learn. So this is the official documentation. I will leave the link in the description, but we're pretty much just going to go into Android Studio right now, and we have the slider that we ended up with in the last lesson, which was the styling the slider lesson. I'm just gonna make it not so ugly really quick. Pretty sure it's going to look better this time. I'm just gonna restart the app really quick. There we go. Now we're ready. And by the way, if you don't know how to use the regular slider, check out the video on the top right now. Now, the biggest difference here is that we're going to have two different slider thumbs. So one slider value double is no longer a thing. Instead, we're going to work with range values. And I'm just going to call this slider range values, and I'm going to make it equal to the range values class. And the range values class expects two positional arguments, which is essentially the minimum range and the maximum range. And they expect a double. So we're going to work with 100 to 220. The same values as the last slider. And let me just update this right here. And I'm just going to show you the differences by changing this slider straight up into a range slider. That's the easiest way to do it. Oops, just range, not ranged, my bad. And as you can see, three errors pop up straight away. First of all, it's not value anymore, it's values, because we're talking about two thumbs, not just one. And instead of the slider value, we put in exactly what we just created, which is the slider range values. Now, you might be thinking, why the hell is the unchanged red? Does it not have an unchanged? It does, but it's not a double anymore. It's a range values type of data. So you can't really apply that type of data to this type of data, but you can apply it to this type of data, like so. And now we're good again. I'm just going to comment out the labels for now, and I'll get back to it in a second. And let me delete this variable right here because it's not necessary anymore. And I'm gonna hit save, and we're going to get an error that I forgot to fix, which is this right here. For now, let's just make this into a string. I'm gonna hit save. Hit save again. Is something okay? For some reason this is imported. Now I'm gonna hit save, and finally we've got a range slider. And as you can see, it's working. There's no values being displayed or anything, but technically it's working. And let me just very quickly print this so you see what's going on. As you can see, only the first value is updating because we're only changing the first thumb. And when we change the second thumb, the second value updates. So we're working with two different values on the unchanged here. So you must be thinking right now, how can we only access one of the values of each thumb? You can just, for example, you can use this on the val value or on this value as well. So I'm just going to use this one right here because it's already here. But it would also work if you used it on the val. So just do dot start, and then we can do the same thing, dot end, and I'm hit save again, and I'm going to change the first thumb, and you're going to see the values being updated right there. And don't forget that the divisions are still being used, so even though you probably can't see them because they're very tiny, they are still there, which is why the numbers are so specific. And then we change this thumb right here, and the same thing happens. So that's how you get to the value. You either use this value right here, or you can use val.start. I'm gonna hit save again, and as you can see, it's the same thing, nothing changed at all. And now that we know this, we're going to go ahead and use the label property. Well, actually the labels property, because we're talking about two different labels. And all you gotta do is use Control+Q, and it tells you right here that the type it expects is range labels. So let's go ahead and create that variable right now. Range labels. I'm just gonna call it slider range labels. And yes, you guessed it, there is a class exactly the same as range values. However, range labels expects a string. So here you could say 100 because it's a starting value, and then here 220. And if this were a real app, you would probably not want to have fixed values, because imagine you have a database and someone on that database is shorter than 100 centimeters. You would probably want to have a variable that would take the minimum value you would have in your database and apply it right here. So you'd probably end up with two variables. At least that's how I've used it in the past. If that confused you, just forget about it. That's not the point. Just focus on this video right now. We're going to use the slider range label right here. I just realized I got the name wrong, so if you don't know how to do this, you can just change the name once, and Android Studio will change the name everywhere that the variable is being used. You just have to use the refactor option, and as you can see, it fixed it here too. And basically, all you have to do to make sure the labels are updating correctly is use them right here and say equals range labels the widget here. And then here, you could technically just do value.start, for example, .toString. Well, not value, sorry about that, val. But instead, I'm going to make it say centimeters as well. So just do this, concatenate it. If you don't know how concatenation works, you can click the video on the top right now. And I'm just going to add in centimeters, and I'm going to do the exact same thing right here, val.end, because the toString is kind of redundant right now, centimeters. I'm going to hit the save button, and as you can see, it's working right now. And I used toString, but I'm going to do this .round. I'm going to do the same thing right here. Now I'm going to hit save, and this is how the slider ends up. And if you wanted to make it show up right here on the UI as well, that could be done very easily, like so. Just add in a row. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to make sure there's some space between them. I'm going to type in minimum right here and maximum right here. Turn down the font size a little bit. And literally I'm just going to come here and copy this and put this here as well. Make it end. And of course, that was a silly mistake. This is the value I actually want to use right here instead of the val. And now I'm going to hit save. And it might not look too pretty, but it's definitely working. Let me just turn off the label so you can see it better. Right there. There you go. It's working perfectly now. As you can see, it's very easy to implement. And this right here would be the finished version, I guess. Nothing too fancy. Just to show you how to use the range slider, that's pretty much the goal. Don't forget you need to use divisions in order for the labels to show up. Same thing here. If I try to do it without the divisions, guess what? It doesn't work. So don't forget about that small detail. Now, something very important about the range slider is that unlike the regular slider, there is no pre-made iOS version. I'm not sure why Flutter didn't do it, but you can still style it with the theme data. In fact, it's being styled right now with the slider theme data. And I just wanted to show you that there are a few values that are specific to the range slider right here. Range thumb shape, range tick mark shape, range track shape, and range value indicator shape. And here, if you do control click, it will take you to this page right here. And as you can read right here, there are properties that are only for the range slider. The ones I mentioned already. And then these three right here. Overlapping shape, stroke color, min thumb separation, and thumb selector. This one is more about the functionality of the thumbs. And I haven't really used this one or found any use for it. And I'll show you this one, but the difference is really very small. So basically you can use the regular properties, style it, but if you want to do the range specific ones, I'll show you how to use them. Let's start with range track shape. This property expects a range slider track shape type, but that's an abstract class. So what it really wants is this right here, the rounded rect range slider track shape. And this is the default one, by the way. But before we show the different one, let me increase the track height. Otherwise, you won't be able to notice it because right now it's just too thin. Now I'm going to save this and it's going to grow a little bit. And this is the default one, the rounded rect range slider track shape. And then if you want to make it rectangular, you just put in the rectangular range slider track shape. Those are pretty much the only two options you've got. And if I save it, you'll see that it's now rectangular. I can make this bigger if you want, and you can check it out like that. The next property we're going to check out is the range value indicator shape. And remember, this is for the label. And once again, I'm going to start by showing you the default one, which is the rectangular range slider value indicator shape. So before I save, it's like this. I'm gonna hit save, and it's the same thing. However, here you have the option to make it look more pear-shaped, like so. Even the color has changed, and if you want to change the color, that's pretty much the exact same way as you would on the regular slider. You just have to change the value indicator color. Let's make it, for example, red. It was blue just now. I'm gonna hit save. And if I drag it, it's red, and that's pretty much how you style that. And you have those two different shape options. Now the other one was the range tick mark shape, which takes the round range slider tick mark shape. And here you can pretty much just change the radius. I'm not sure about the default value. It's about 4 point something. Let me see if I can get it right. I'm going to put in 4.7, and let's see if the tick marks right here change size or not. And they did, they got a little bit thicker. So the default might be 4.5, something around that. Maybe less, maybe like this, 4.2. But you can make it super small, like 1.2 as well. And now they're very small. And finally, we can change the range thumb shape, which takes a type range slider thumb shape. And the class that extends that abstract class, in this case, is the round range slider thumb shape. And as you can see here, you have a few different properties. Let's change the enable thumb radius to maybe 20. I think that'll be a big difference. There you go. And we can change the elevation too, make it 20 as well. Why not? And I think you can see right here underneath a little bit of elevation right here. And if you notice when we click, the elevation changes. because the button gets pressed down. So we can also change that as well with pressed elevation. So let's put in 50 or something like that and see what happens. So now when I click, as you can see, the elevation gets even wider or larger, whatever you want to call it. And finally, I'm going to show you the overlapping shape stroke color. Now this might be hard for you to notice, but before I change the color, once the thumbs are getting too close, you get a little warning like that. You see the white going around the label? It's warning you that both thumbs are getting too close together. And that's the color that this changes right here. It was white right now, let's make it black, so that it's really easy to notice. I'm going to save it, and once I get it close again, as you can see, now it's black. So that's just a little small detail that you can have control of if you want. But you'll see that mostly you'll just use the regular slider theme data options for either slider. And let's make this not so ugly again. I just wanted to show you how that works. That pretty much wraps it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you learned anything from this video, please hit the like button. And if you want to keep on watching Flutter tutorials, feel free to subscribe. Again, thank you for watching. This is Flutter Mentor, and out.